I just wanted to get your thoughts. And it really comes into a bigger theme of what I was talking about. And that is there a value to a so-called moderate Republican, right? Because look at Susan Collins said and Lisa Murkowski, well, we're not supporting the bill. We're just voting to proceed with it, but we're not going to support it unless there's major changes. Rand Paul's a no. Ron Johnson pulled a Ron Johnson, and after making noise, of course, fell into line. So what do you folks think on that? Why don't I start with you, Kurt?
I think it's really troubling that we've gotten to a point where the only time it seems that senators are willing to vote their conscience is if they know that they're on their way out the door. Time and again, we see people vote for things that they know and would privately concede is not something that they are, ideologically behind, but because they don't want to risk the wrath and ire of, their party leader, in this case, Donald Trump, they hold their nose and vote for it. And in this case, the only time that we've seen senators ever really stand up to Donald Trump is when they're on the retirement circuit. And that's not how it's supposed to work. And it certainly isn't supposed to work that if you don't do X, then we're going to threaten you with Y. You're kind of taking the voice away of the people who actually elected these senators in the first place. You are saying that your agenda takes priority over their state's agenda. I worked for back in the day for Olympia Snowe from the great state of Maine. One of the true swing votes at the time. She was always being courted by the White House as well as the party leadership because she routinely would vote her state over any of the DC political machinations. And it's interesting watching. You mentioned Susan Collins earlier. I remember Susan Collins, her staff had such an inferiority complex when it came to Olympia. She felt like the second cousin of Maine because Olympia was so beloved and entrenched there. And now, watching Olympia retire, go off to the sunset because she didn't want to be a part of this version of Washington, which she astutely saw was coming down the pike 10 years ago. Now Susan's senior senator from Maine, important swing vote. And yet, what does she really do with it? Other than hem and haw, sometimes she says, oh, I don't like how this is going. I have concerns. And then ends up just going around and voting for it anyway, which is why even though the chatter she probably will run again, it wouldn't shock me if she exits stage left too at this point. It seems like anybody in the Republican Party that has half an operational brain and some sort of conscience and moral clarity and compass, they're heading for the exits.